Hello and welcome to the show. I am back at an old testing ground of mine. It might be a familiar sight. For some, this is the Bajarama circuit on BeamNG Drive, the site of the first Driven Till Destruction series. And for a one-off special, I fancied coming back here to try some of the new cars that never got to tackle the circuit, and seeing as the game has had a number of updates, see what might happen. Vehicles have different mechanical bits, different things can go wrong perhaps with cars, and suspension, everything's all kind of slightly different, and just generally see what might occur. We're going to start with the Piccolino. That is probably going to be not too bad at this. I've gone for a sporty version, but it's rear-engined and air-cooled, which means the engine should be protected from heavy landings on the front, and, well, we don't have a leaking radiator to have the car overheat. Now, the rules for this are simple. The first part of this course isn't really too bad for the cars. They will drive around this circuit flat out, and they have to be driven as hard as they can, until they stop working, for whatever reason. It might be that the engine breaks and the engine overheats. For some cars, the fuel tank ruptures, steering goes, chassis gets bent. There's a whole litany of problems that we can have with vehicles, and it's interesting to see. Basically, it's fun to see the cars fall apart. Now, this particular circuit is built for Baja trucks, which means there's lots of jumps and lots of nasty landings that a car like this, for example, will not enjoy. I am allowed to right the cars should they end up on their roof, because it is quite common with a vehicle like this. Cars are counted out also if they can no longer steer, and by that I mean if I have to go into reverse to get around a corner. Now, if I spin a damaged car myself and then have to get in reverse to recover it, that's fine, but if the car physically cannot make a turn at low speeds without going around the corner at a decent, sensible angle, it will be counted out. And likewise, we have a crueler rule, although it's never really had to come into effect, whereby if a car is unable to get above 20 miles an hour, that is also counted out by virtue that a heavily damaged car could potentially just sneak its way around, barely moving, but still kind of moving. So, there we have it. I would expect we might see this go out with steering related issues. Potentially a nasty landing could clonk out the engine in one hit, but I do think this car is pretty strong on the old engine department. Radiator springs, this big old jump is the dangerous part of the circuit. We've fallen over an awful lot with this car. That is 3 rolls and we're not even around a lap properly yet. That's great. Yeah, that is the nasty jump. You have to be going a decent speed to clear it. If you don't, you fall in the little ditch, and that will do a lot of damage to your car. And the way the landing zone is for that, it's generally quite bad for damaging the cars. My front wheels are bent. Now, they're not... It's the camber that's bent rather than the alignment. It actually still drives at a straight line fairly well, but the wheels lean when we go around a corner quite badly. These are the sort of bumps that will take their toll on a suspension. We are okay across there. Now, this next section, you want a very fast car, ideally, to do this right. Otherwise, you want a very fast car unless you want to be lined up perfectly. If you are not, you end up hitting every jump. If you get this right, you can actually run down here pretty smoothly, jumping 2 bits at a time. It works lovely. This has not worked lovely. We're going to clonk into the floor, but we've got to keep going. It's not gone amazingly well to plan. We've landed on a front wheel again. Somehow we are still okay with those front wheels. Okay, we stuck on that. If the car gets beached, I'm also allowed to drag the vehicle off, although it is possible, as we are starting to see. I think my front suspension has entirely collapsed in the car. If the vehicle is so badly... if the vehicle gets so badly stuck that it physically can't move anymore because the chassis is bent, then that's fine. If I spin it off the road and get stuck, that's a different story. But yeah, if the chassis gets so buckled, the car can no longer continue, and that will also be another way it gets counted out. And this might actually be going that way, just judging by the front wheels. The front wheels are starting to poke over the fenders. That's a concern. I mean, it's going to get around a lap, which is not too bad. Oh, crap. That's a big hit on the front of the car. Don't have pushed the front too far. Okay, the front's still okay. And I'm glad we've got nothing important at the front, otherwise it would not be happy in this car. There we go. That is a lap around the circuit. Our car is unhealthy. It's safe to say our car is quite unhealthy, but the important characteristics, engine still works, steering still works surprisingly well, actually. The brakes work. Now, we have seen fires go on with vehicles. We've seen fires in golf cars. I think the fire way fire works has changed since I last run this course, but yeah, we had fire completely engulf some cars and they just kept going. They were unfazed by us, although it did tend to take out the tyres, that was a little bit unhappy. We got that jump quite nicely. Oh, carefully does it. We go a little car. Everything is, I say, okay. We're still quick enough, and this is the good news for the Piccolino so far. It is still, fast enough. Some of these more wonky jumps we are able to make cleanly. Now my steering is all sorts of knackered, so we've got an awful lot of positive camber on the left hand side. I think we've got a lot of negative on the right, and that isn't good. I don't quite know what's caused that. I guess that might be just the way the suspension is collapsing. Is it just when we... okay, so like the whole front suspension's kind of going funny, basically. It kind of falls over on itself as it goes around a corner. It's not the most precise steering anymore, but it is still at least steering. We're going to struggle to get ourselves up this hill here. Right. Come on, car. Make radiator springs. Oh, okay. That is a smidge away from massive trouble there. Radiator springs is one of those jumps that is normally... Oh, wow. Now we're really struggling with the turning side of things. As you go around the course, as the car gets more and more broken, it tends to get slower. And when this car was making radiator springs just when it was pristine, brand new, the slower the worse the car gets, the bigger the hit we're going to probably have on radiator springs. And the only plus point, at the moment... Okay, the engine isn't going to die bar from a big one-hit knockout. We could lose a rear wheel. That could stop us from driving quite easily, to be honest, but it doesn't really look like that's likely to be the case. The way the car's taking most of these jumps, it looks like it's pretty okay to be it lands on the front. A wonky landing, a wonky jump. You might see the car twist in the air and clonk a rear wheel out, but it's so far not looking like the probable cause of death, although that's a big wobble across there. We've got it back under control again now. Come on, car. You can make this. You're actually doing really well through these back jumps. It has made that quite nicely. The front is a sorry sight. The front is a very sorry sight. We have like no contact patch with the road when we turn a corner anymore, so it's just not steering. The worse the car gets in terms of suspension quality, the more difficult the jumps become, because you then actually struggle to line the car up. If the car's moving around a lot, if the car's very difficult to drive, you can't have a nice pristine approach, if you like, to a jump, and then you end up in more trouble. This is still an impressive run. Small cars, oh, that's a horrible landing. I think my rear suspension's now starting to go as well. But it still lives as it moves on to a third lap. This is a good showing for a small car. Small vehicles have tended to struggle around these kind of destruction circuits. They certainly like cars. While the Pigeon was very good, owing to insanely strong wheels on the most part and just enough speed to not really damage itself. Oh, we don't handle all that great anymore. Bloody hell. Yeah, this is, for example, I'm allowed to reverse the car out of this when I've managed to slide it into a hay bale. Little cars do tend to get battered up quite badly on this course. This has outlived any covert that we would send around here. Maybe the rally one if it gets a good run, but they can still get undone about here. Oh, we're gonna go for a bit of a roll. We're gonna go for three. We're gonna go for a third, and back down on the ground. I think all the suspension travel's gone in the car. There is just none. No suspension travel is being had in this particular vehicle anymore at the front. Once that starts to go, it means the impacts are going to go through the wheel axles. That's not what you want. When you have the impacts going straight through the wheel axles, that's what tears wheel axles off, pretty much. None of the front wheels are really doing what front wheels should anymore. It's barely a car, but it's still going, and that's what makes this track fantastic. Now it does. With a normal car, this is quite a radiator-destroying circuit. Overheating is generally what ends up killing a car. Of course, we don't have to worry about that here. That's why it's kind of why it's still going. If we can get a nice run up here, that would be nice. I fear we might have problems setting it up for this. Yep, that's problems. Ooh. Oh dear. I knew it was problems when we were starting having. I just couldn't get the car to. It won't go in a straight line anymore. The rear wheel's quite badly. Both rear wheels are quite badly broken. So we are in a really poor state now. I have one wheel still on the floor, which is something, but my control is very severely limited. If we have another hit on the front of the car, we can take. Oh god, we can take hits on the front left because that's already pointing upwards, but we can't afford to take hits on the front right. Christ, that thing, it's very light. It's flung over pretty easily. So that wheel there is now even higher, pointing into the sky. We turned to the left quite nice. In the grand scheme of things, everything considered, we could be more broken. It won't be long until we are more broken. We could have more issues, I think. As I say, I say that as my car. I mean, we could have more issues. It doesn't look like it started in the slightest. There is not much of the original looking. I mean, I guess the rear bumper's mostly in one piece. Kind of surprised we haven't lost the exhaust. That is something that can happen nowadays. That we never, used to see. It was never a thing. My temperature is sitting about okay. The air cooling is doing its job. Oh, we are going to have some problems, I suspect. Don't smack that front end into the floor any more than it already is. Come on, keep going, little car. You can do it. Could you really make it onto a fourth lap? It's been so long since we have taken a car around here, and the fact that this one is still, the doors are now flapping. I think we've actually bent it so that wheel is almost back to touching the ground. How long before something snaps, though? Like, how long before something important snaps? Because, oh, that's not what I needed. That hit the other side. Do I have steering? I think so. I'm not quite sure what wheel is doing the steering. It's still more than capable of achieving the required speed. It might be in danger of going out with steering. I think if it makes it to radiator springs, that might kill it. Because I don't think I can get it pointing in a straight line and sorted well enough for that jump. With enough speed, we will hit the landing zone, and we will hit the landing zone really bloody hard. There was a grinding sound suddenly going on from the car. I don't know what was grinding. I would have thought chassis on the floor probably, but we haven't heard that sound before. Rear wheels currently just about touching the road. Such a broken car, but it lives. Then this is this is what happens. You get vehicles that are legends for somehow managing to continue driving on. I mean, it's still going here. Still just fast enough to clear these jumps as well. I said this was the downside. The Bajarama circuit, if you had a car like this that was just quick enough to keep going, it really was radiator springs that was the main killing point, if you will. That is the heaviest landing. Here can be bad, is about to be bad for us. Oh, that's landed on the rear wheel. Oh, we've lost a front. One of the front wheels has now gone as well. Typical, as I was saying, about the radiator springs being the dangerous bit. The jump before proves to be worse. Okay, we've lost a front wheel. Our front wheel entirely gone. Do I still have enough steering to make a corner? Can I still... we're still just fast enough. Everything is not okay, but we continue on regardless. I thought he was going to snap one of the rear wheels, but it has not. We are good to keep climbing at least. I am very much now struggling to turn the car. I might not... the steering might have killed it if that wheel doesn't let us turn. I can't turn back that way because the car falls over. But what I have managed to do is spin the wheel around to the point where it is now going to let me turn. That is within the rules, but this is going to hurt. Ugh. I got no steering anymore. Steering's gone. I knew it was going to hurt. My one wheel that works has not touched the floor. Look at it go. It's dead. No, turn back that way. Please, please, please. Turn that way. Turn that way, car. You're off the course, aren't you? You're very dead. Bloody hell. I mean, a round of applause. That is a noble effort for the car. It's very, very broken, but damn, it put on a good show. So, the other of the official new vehicles that won't have taken on this circuit is the Blue Buck, a big old classic American tank. Now these are, you know what, I can't remember if I can remember that's the right name. Is it Blue Buck? It is Blue Buck. Now, the other of the new official cars that won't have taken on the Bajarama circuit is the Blue Buck. Now this, a big old American tank, if you will. These are generally pretty good around here. They have the fabled wobble-matic suspension, which is very important indeed. What I mean by this is, well, the suspension is quite soft and quite bouncy. Now, it might give the car an awful lot of body roll and might not make it the easiest of things to drive on a circuit, but in destruction terms, it means that, well, the suspension will absorb a lot of punishment before it actually does all that much damage. There is a catch to all of this, mind. If it does break, it tends to be pretty catastrophic. This particular one is a bloody fast model I've gone for. I went for one of the more powerful engines. I didn't quite realise how rapid it was going to be in the acceleration front. And being a big rear-wheel drive muscle car, control on the dirt is a little bit limited, so wheel spin can get the better of you, some oversteer can get the better of you, and yeah, you might see it sliding slightly across jumps unintentionally, but as I said, the rules are it's got to be driven. It's got to be driven hard. I could, you know, drive all the vehicles very carefully around here and nothing would get damaged. That's not the point, is it really? We should be fast enough to clear this jump. Ooh, not quite as clearing that jump as I thought we were going to. There's a line where being fast is very good and you actually get the nice landing. But if you're just a smidge too slow, then everything goes horribly wrong. But we have done that without much damage to the actual car. I mean, it looks bad, of course. We ended up upside down or outside and everything. But mechanically damaged, not too much. We should be good to clear this on the first lap. It does fly quite nose down, which is a concern for the vehicle. Now, I'm not allowed to turn off the cars. If they roll, they have to be left running while I recover. It's sort of a slight punishment for ending up on your roof, although it's unlikely to, considering everything else that goes on here, that's unlikely to really do all that much damage to the cars in. The other damages are going to be greater, but it's just a little thing that we tend to do. Now, this should be good. Oh, to clear the first one, clear the second. It's a good landing. Am I a little concerned about the front right, perhaps? Front right might be a little poorly, and I was in the wrong gear for all of that. Yeah, front right might be a touch lower. Oh, we're not going to get the speed I want to over here. Radiator, of course, is a concern with this car. While it does seem to be holding up pretty well so far, it's always a weak point, especially over these. These are the sort of things that will kill a radiator if you aren't careful. Now, can we get that perfect run down here? This might be a car that's fast enough to do it. If we can get this bit here good, which we do. Now, we'll go for 3. Oh, no. So close. So close. It feels like almost maybe the wobble-matic suspension is not the best thing for the landings. Like it bounces just a little bit too much to get that perfect run. It's definitely front right is unhappy at the moment. But we will certainly complete the first lap without too much in terms of an issue. Well, I missed that jump entirely. That was sliding around on the dirt did me in there. But another thing to consider with the fact I've just noticed, while the radiator is in one piece, the engine is actually getting quite hot just working. Some cars, they do. This is a pre-built spec. I haven't stuck a silly engine in this car using the configurator. This is a pre-built spec. It's the 425. So the engine is actually getting hot just having to work around here. If that blows it, that kills it. It's rare, but I think we had a couple of cars that did it. I was going to say, one of the dangers with the muscle car, or the classic American vehicles, is the fuel tank is often quite exposed at the back. If you have a couple of big heavy hits to the rear of the car, that can get ruptured. Some vehicles worse than others. Drive shaft is always another concern. This drive shaft apparently not holding up too badly. Basically, you've got engine at the front, a very long way to go to the back, and it doesn't take much for a bent chassis to lead to the drive shaft being snapped. I have noticed the gearbox is now slightly poking out of where it should be. That's alarming. That suggests that things are getting twisted in a way that they probably don't want to be. We might see a drive shaft go. It's better than the bar stove that's notorious. We have lost the rear. Have we lost the rear right suspension as well? The whole right hand side of the car is now not looking healthy. Something's not right with the right hand side. Definitely a bit of it's gone. I don't think it's not entirely gone, but there is something poorly in that. Oh, that's a big crunch on the front. I can't see anything alarmingly obvious about the underneath of the car. Anything alarmingly broken? Could just be the whole body's twisted on the car. Certainly, it's certainly not looking like it's sat particularly level there. But so far, doing fairly well. We saw plenty of cars held didn't even make it around a lap. This is a punishing track. And to be perfectly fair to vehicles, you can run the same car 3 times and get very different. This is not a particularly scientific test. This is more for entertainment purposes, of course. But this is, yeah, not going too badly at all. The radiator, I mean, if the radiator goes, we overheat very quickly. We're already incredibly hot having to work the car around here. If/when that conks out because of the front getting hit across these jumps, we will be in trouble. Can we do this? We were so close. It is now starting to get quite warm, the car. We were so close to making this work last time out. Here we go. Come on. Oh, the coolant's going. 3. Yep. Nicely does it, car. Another 3. Last one. Perfect. And if you make that stick, that also mitigates quite a lot of the damage to the suspension. Like, if you don't hit the ground anywhere near as hard because you're actually landing on a proper landing zone. But to run this sort of speed, the car is getting hot. To be able to do that, the car is getting hot, and I'm not allowed to just slow down and let it cool off. If we end up spinning and something and it cools down slightly, well, you know, it happens with driving a muscle car on dirt. But it is getting warm now, and that isn't great, shall we say. That is not so great at all. We are going to just continue a long slide through there. 'Cause I mean, I guess I could maybe try running it in third to cool it down. It's not really like we're running not always running all that high in the revs, and I do need to still be able, I need to get some speed for some of the jumps. We can't run too slow. Trying to protect the engine here. Front, yeah, the front is unhappy. I'm really surprised to see this car actually overheating just from being worked hard. It's a big engine in this car. Maybe this spec doesn't come with a good, well, it apparently doesn't come with a good enough cooling system, good enough radiator. Piston rings are damaged. Now this is where we start getting into, I mean, there's smoke billowing out of everywhere. The problem we might have, the problem we are going to have, oh, the head gasket's gone, is can we make it to radiator springs? We've got no performance anymore. I think the engine will blow before we get up to radiator springs here. Come on, car. You can do it. You can make it. Maybe. It's certainly going to get very poorly on radiator spring. It's going to be a really nasty crash because I've got nothing left to give for the car. Oh, well, that killed it. Engine broken. That's game over. It was dying. The car was dying. We had no speed heading up towards that. That will not fire again. I thought we might snap the drive shaft doing that, but it did just clonk on the engine. And that is why radiator springs is one of the dangerous jumps on this circuit. If you can't do, I think it's about 41, 42 mile an hour, depending on quite your angle of approach to get the landing perfect, and that was too unhealthy. Now the damage was caused just by driving the car hard, I guess. It was battered, but it was going fairly well. In the end, the 425 was just a bit too much for this car. It meant it was safe across some of the faster jumps, which was great, fun to drive and everything, but in the end, ran too hot, lost performance at a very critical part, and that is the death of the car. So There we go. A little revisit to the Bajarama circuit. It's a fantastic track. It really is. It's excellent fun. I've always highly recommended this for sort of destruction driving. I'm glad it got re-uploaded. I don't know what got taken down, but got re-uploaded to the Beam forums for the Beam mods a little while ago. I shall put a link to it in the description if you want to have a go with this brilliant circuit. For those that will inevitably saying they would love to see a return of Driven to Destruction, so would I. I need a map that's suitable. While this is a great track, we have done it to death. I've driven an awful lot of cars around here, and we've done various other layouts. There is currently no other circuit that is even vaguely close to being suitable. Trust me, I've tried. This is quite a fun thing to see what happens. But if there ever is a map, I'm sure it might be something that makes a return, because it's weirdly interesting seeing what it takes to break a car and how far cars can go. The Blue Buck in the end was perhaps a little bit more sensible, shall we say? Sensibler a death. That Piccolino was amazing, really. Either way, that is going to be it for this video. Thank you all very much for watching, and until next time, a goodbye.